we conspired to create the story of a pacifistic Jewish Messiah.
Individuals have a right to the truth. The Caesars committed a crime against consciousness. They reached into the minds of their subjects and planted false concepts to make them easier to control. And those crimes are not only historical.
I tell you things that are true anyway. So Jesus doesn't cure coronavirus, partly because he doesn't exist. So you can pray all day long, and if you come together to pray for Jesus to save you, you are more likely to die, not less likely to die. That's just a fact, because science doesn't care about your mythology, and science doesn't care about your feelings. And is obviously the biggest scam artist in the country, makes Trump look like an amateur scam artist. So, I mean, if you can't see that he's robbing you blind and all of it is fake, there is no end to your ignorance. There is no end to your ignorance. How could you look at that and think, nailed it? He declared coronavirus officially cured on March 29th at noon because he said he talked to Jesus and Jesus ended it. If you believe that, you're the dumbest person alive. And unfortunately, there's a lot of you.
The money is important to them, right? That's what drives them. And they don't care about their own parishioners. They are risking the lives of their own parishioners because all they care about is that money. It's incredible.
And by the way, when they pass that money plate around, they all touch it. You take communion in those churches that do, you're all sharing it. So it's a virus utopia. So I got news for you. In a wrestling match between Jesus and science, science is going to win every time. So you're going to be deeply offended, but I'm going to tell you things that are true anyway. So Jesus doesn't cure coronavirus, partly because he doesn't exist.
We will show that the events of Jesus' ministry occur at the same location and in the same sequence as the events of Titus's military campaign that they represent. The Gospels were deliberately linked to the history of the Flavian military campaign written. I began studying the other two major works of the era, the New Testament and Wars of the Jews by Josephus, a Roman court historian who described the war between the Romans and the Jews in the first century. While reading these works side by side, I noticed an amazing connection between them. Certain events from the ministry of Jesus seem to closely parallel episodes from the military campaign of Roman Caesar Titus Flavius, a campaign which Flavius Josephus. Josephus at this time begins writing the history of the war, and he records that Titus gave him the Jewish scripture. Josephus's histories have always been associated with the origins of Christianity.
Time and again you can find parallels between what Josephus writes and what turns up in the Gospels. It's a powerful evidence of their true origin.
In reading the works of Josephus side by side with the Gospels, scholars have noticed parallels between the two works. It appears as though the history of Josephus records events.
The Flavians were proud of their invention and encoded into the Gospels a message to posterity. All of the events of Jesus' ministry were created as symbolic representations of the Flavians' military campaign through Judea. Jesus begins his ministry at the Sea of Galilee, where he tells his disciples that if they follow him, they will become fishers of men. That story was based on Titus's military victory at the Sea of Galilee, where he sank the Jews' fishing fleet and fished for men.
If you don't stop worshiping the false god, Christ, Baal, that's who he is, right?
I'm going to tell you things that are true anyway. So Jesus doesn't cure coronavirus, partly because he doesn't exist.